Okay, so a lot of stuff is done. Finally moving on to the wiring. And when you're dealing with a very old vehicle, people say, yeah, you know, the wiring worked, this kind of worked, that kind of worked. Yeah, here's the thing. Here's the fuse panel. And here's the back side of it. So all that rust and corrosion there is going to make terrible connections, and it just lead to problems with the car down the road. A lot of this wiring is just old and crusty. Really not a whole lot that's savable out of this. But when you're doing this and you're taking everything out of the car, do not throw anything away until you're done. Now, I did take out the rest of the firewall insulation and was greeted by all this. That's fun. And then inside the vent, looks like something was living in there. But the reason why I'm bringing you to all this is the wire harness that goes to the back of the car, where it lays inside this channel right here. And this wire here, you can see, is all chewed up, bare, exposed. So I'm sure they've been fighting us short on this thing for some time. Well, the issue is that eventually it'll cause a fire. And this is why you don't want a dummy working on your car. Another issue is when he painted the steering column, he didn't do the top of it right here. But he didn't do anything else. So we're going to be tearing that apart and cleaning that up and get it ready for paint. But the big excitement is here. We have our full wiring harness. Obviously made by Painless. It's painless to put in, it's not painless to pay for, but it's so worth it. Now check this out. Comes with some basic instructions. This is an advertisement for a loom that they sell. But you get a whole box of terminals, grommets, power leads, factory style connectors. Tells you what's going on in the fuse panel. But they also pre-terminate a lot of these so that it all plugs into the factory stuff. So in our case, this is the headlight section. Here's for your heater. Even right down to the wiper switch. And then of course we have the main harness here, which out of here is going to be all your rear harnesses and whatnot. Now the nice thing about Painless is that they actually mark the wires exactly where they go and what they do. You can't ask for any better than this. Gauge cluster, light bulbs, other part of it. Instruction sheet. So it's made specifically for this car. Now they do sell universal ones that you got to kind of splice together. Not a big deal. I'm going to show you how to get through this. It's not as bad as it seems. It's a lot, but take your time, read the labels, read the instructions. Everything's going to go fine the first time. Alright, so I figure what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a whole separate video on the wiring harness. So according to the Painless instructions, lay out the harness. Alright, it's on the floor. Now there's a block right here that the new fuse block pushes into. They want it mounted near where the original fuse block was. If you ask me, that is the dumbest place in the world. Because if anything goes wrong, it's going to be a nightmare to try to troubleshoot it. But that's what they want, so, you know, smart man wrote the directions, smart man should follow directions. Okay, and they want it mounted with the wiring harness coming out the top, like so. Okay, so next they want you to open up this opening and this opening to 1.25 inches, and then they give you new plates and grommets to go through. I'm just going to use a good old-fashioned unibit here. Okay, so after you make a couple of big gaping holes in there, you have these plates with these grommets that you have to install. They pop right in, there's no drama involved. Now, what they want you to do is put the headlight section B harness through there. And Painless, being Painless, right here it says headlight section B. See how easy this is? Okay, so when you get everything routed, you know, your application may vary. In my case, the engine harness comes from the inside of the car out. The headlight harness goes from the outside in. A little tip for you. When you're dealing with harnesses, sometimes you're going to get some big goofy connectors like this one. Okay, it's very difficult to get through the grommet and through the metal plate. Put this through first. You may have to kind of fold it over to get it through, but it will go. Then go to your next size, your next biggest connector, pull that through, so on and so forth until you get all the wires done and routed. And just leave everything loose for now. Now the engine harness is separated into 3 sections. You got your section that goes down to the transmission for your neutral safety switch and your backup lamp switch. You got all your feeds here for your from back and forth from the alternator to the ammeter, and also you know, oil pressure, electric choke, things like that. And then you got a 3rd section here that deals with the starting system. So take your time, think about what you're doing, especially when you're inside the car and you're running the wires out. Don't get the other harnesses wrapped up in there. In my particular case, there's a section where the headlight section is. Actually, it breaks off and goes to the, where the engine harness is. There's a section that breaks off and goes to the ignition switch. Don't pull that into the engine compartment. So, alright, so that's basically getting the start of it. Alright, wiring is not the easiest thing to do in the world, but it's not the hardest thing. You gotta remember, mortal men did this even when the car was built back in 1965. Here we are in 2017, and we have technology on our sides. However, it does us no good here. Anyways, when you're doing the wiring, I can't stress this enough. Take your time. Just be methodical about it. Read everything, and you'll get through it. Case in point, there's 2 really long harnesses here. One wasn't called out in the instructions, at least not yet. But it says accessory relay, but it's really long. It seems to me that it would go in the front of the car, but it almost seemed to go with the tail section harness. Now in our case, we got to get the wire down down there. There's a hole, and then it comes through all this. And then from there, it makes its way into this channel. Through here where the rear window is. And then up the inside of the quarter panel. You can actually see the harness, the old harness laying there. Through the sail panel. And then finally into the trunk. Now, unfortunately, I don't have a tripod, so well, I'll get back to you after all this is done. Now, anytime you're running wire through a car, of course, you're going to have instances where you're going to have to pass over metal or pass through metal. Sometimes there aren't grommets there. so you can go out to the store, find grommets. Another option is go get yourself a bunch of wire loom like this. Now, you can get this any place, Amazon, swap meets. I bought this stuff at a swap meet years ago. I've got 3 rolls of it in different sizes. I think I paid, I don't know, 50 bucks for all 3 rolls. I got about 200 feet. So, the reason why you want to do that is when you're coming through an area like this, where there's no grommet and there's sharp metal. Now, as the car vibrates, it's going to eventually wear through. Now, the factory did put in, right here where this hole is, they put in one of these, but the way it gets routed, the wire makes a sharp bend over that metal. So, okay, so after an hour or so of running wires to the front and back and through the car, we have our new harness at the back of the car here. You can see they kind of give you a bit, and in some areas, like here for the tail light and the reverse light, it's just long enough. It's actually going to be a little short, but it's not a big deal. We got wire, we can make it longer. So take your time, plan your work your plan. It's just a matter of being methodical about it. Tail section, engine section, dash section. Do that, get everything run, make it nice and neat. The neater you make it now, the longer it's going to last. The last thing you want is to go to start your new car up and have it catch on fire, or now you're chasing down electrical gremlins.